In the heart of the Thrakari Military Academy, a heavy silence filled the grand lecture hall. Tall, grey walls pulsed with energy from the Academy's core. Bright lights cast sharp shadows on the faces of eager cadets. They sat in rows, ready to learn about the strange and primitive Earth, a world filled with chaos and conflict. Today, they would study human warfare. Commander Birath stood at the front, his presence commanding. He was a seasoned warrior, decorated in armor that gleamed under the bright lights. His voice echoed as he introduced the lesson. We will analyze human conflict from the period known as World War II. Prepare yourselves to learn about their primitive tactics. As he spoke, the holographic projector lit up, displaying images of bombed cities and soldiers in mud. The scenes flickered with a chaotic energy that contrasted sharply with the sleek, organized designs of Thrakari combat. The cadets rolled their eyes at the sight of humans battling fiercely, seemingly driven by chaos rather than logic. Thrakari felt a surge of disdain. She was one of the brightest cadets, known for her cunning strategies and unyielding belief in efficiency. These humans lack control, she thought, shaking her head slightly. How can they succeed with such disarray? The images shifted to a scene of a small group of human soldiers. They were heavily outnumbered, surrounded, yet they fought with a fierce determination. Thrakari leaned forward, curiosity replacing some of her disdain. What drives them? She wondered. The sight of their defiance sparked a flicker of doubt. Birath continued, observe their tactics. While they lack our technology, they compensate with unpredictability. The words hung in the air like an ominous cloud. The cadets exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of the commander's emphasis on unpredictability. Outside the academy, the world was vibrant and alive. The air hummed with the sound of energy cores powering the training fields. The smell of hot metal and ozone wafted through the air, a reminder of the technological superiority of the Thrakari. Their ships, with their jagged designs, soared through the sky. Each ship was a testament to efficiency and military might. Yet in this sterile environment, the cadets could not deny the raw emotion displayed in the holo-records. As they watched each battle unfold, the sounds of gunfire and the cries of soldiers rattled in their minds. Thrakari's heart raced. She felt a strange mix of contempt and intrigue. The next scene showed a medic rushing onto the battlefield, risking everything to save a wounded soldier. What foolishness, Thrakari thought, shaking her head. In her world, saving another meant risking the entire mission. It was a concept unfathomable to her, yet she could not look away. As the lecture continued, each new clip revealed the brutality of human warfare. The cadets squirmed as images of destruction filled their screens. It was chaotic, unpredictable, and yet there was something gripping in the way humans fought. Each battle seemed less about victory and more about the will to survive against impossible odds. Birath noted the cadets' discomfort, his voice growing more intense. They fought with passion, but passion often leads to defeat. We must learn from this, but let us not be swayed by emotion. Thrakari felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had always valued cold efficiency, yet something about the humanity displayed in those recordings stirred her thoughts. Maybe there was strength in their chaos. As the lecture wrapped up, the room buzzed with excitement. The cadets discussed their observations. Some agreed with Thrakari, insisting that human tactics were foolish. Others began to ponder the lessons buried in the disarray. The lights dimmed, and the projector shut down, leaving the hall in semi-darkness. Thrakari felt the weight of disagreement in the air. She had always prided herself on logic and precision, yet these humans were starting to chip away at her beliefs. The Thrakari were a species built on efficiency, where every action had a purpose. To them, emotions were weaknesses, tools to be suppressed. But as Thrakari left the lecture hall, she carried the weight of thoughts she could not brush aside. As she stepped outside, the wind whipped through her hair. The sensations of the world around her pulsed with life. The hum of technology mixed with her racing heart. She felt the stirrings of something new, a quest to understand the heart of humanity. The study of human warfare had begun, and it promised to reveal far more than the cadets expected. The seeds of doubt were planted, and they would grow in the fertile ground of Thrakari's mind. The journey ahead would challenge everything she thought she knew. The Thrakari cadets sat in their darkened lecture hall, eyes glued to the hollow screen. The images flickered, projecting chaotic scenes from human battles. They had just finished their first analysis, but the findings left them unsettled. Broken bodies lay across war-torn landscapes, yet human soldiers continued to fight. They charged forth, ignoring pain and blood, driven by something deeper than efficiency. Thrakari leaned forward, her brow furrowed. This cannot be strategy, she thought. It's madness. She had always believed in the Thrakari way, the cold logic of efficiency, the pursuit of victory without hesitation. Yet the unfolding images demanded her attention. The human soldiers were not just fighting, they were living, embracing the chaos with fierce determination. As they probed further, a new concept emerged: medics. These human units rushed into danger, risking their lives for those who were wounded. Thrakari's heart raced. In her world, risking oneself for another was a sign of weakness. The Thrakari valued survival above all. Why would humans defy this instinct? The cadets watched as a medic crawled through mud, reaching for an injured comrade. Gunfire rained down. Thrakari's breath quickened. She could almost feel the acrid scent of gunpowder in the air. The sight was overwhelming. A soldier, battered and broken, pushed through the pain. The medic, too, faced death for the sake of another. It was a sight that shattered the Thrakari understanding of warfare. "Thrakari, what do you think?" asked one cadet, breaking the silence. She blinked, reminded of her peers in the darkened room. "Humanity displays an odd form of tenacity," she replied, her voice low. "But this cannot be the path to victory." In the moments that followed, the cadets watched more footage. Soldiers fought on with shattered bones, their faces a mix of agony and resolve. Thrakari observed the camaraderie that bound them, a bond forged in chaos and fear. It was alien to her, yet undeniably powerful. As the day turned into night, the air grew thick with energy and tension. Thrakari felt a shift within herself. Could this human spirit hold merit? This question gnawed at her. Was there a strength in their suffering? The next holo-record drew them into the Battle of Stalingrad. The city lay in ruins, its buildings crumbling, its streets drenched in blood. Thrakari sat straight. The ruthlessness of their enemy was evident, as was the determination of the defenders. Human soldiers, cornered and outnumbered, transformed. Instead of surrender, they fought back. Defiance echoed in their cries. She closed her eyes, envisioning the sights and sounds of war. The distant thud of explosions, the cries of the wounded, the acrid smell of smoke. These sensations washed over her like a wave. The Thrakari had never faced such desperation among their foes. The cadets began to speak. They debated human motivations and their uncanny ability to endure. Some spoke of weakness, while others began to see the value of persistence. Thrakari felt torn. Could there be strength in vulnerability? She could not fully accept this notion, yet her admiration began to overshadow her skepticism. Days passed, filled with data and recorded battles. Each session deepened the cadets' understanding. They analyzed the human code of honor. Surrender was not an option. Victory was achieved at any cost. Thrakari squirmed at these revelations. Her mind wrestled with the implications. The Thrakari approach was pragmatic. The notion of sacrifice was a different battlefield altogether. One evening, as they prepared for another study session, Thrakari stood before the hollow screen. Images flickered and shifted, revealing a soldier whose leg had been shattered. Yet he fought on, crawling through debris, refusing to yield. Thrakari instinctively clenched her fists. The instinct to survive was being warped into something else entirely. Her peers exchanged glances, their expressions revealing confusion, respect, and fear. They were grappling with their own beliefs. Thrakari could see it in their eyes, a blend of admiration and unease. They were realizing humans fought not just for survival, but for something greater, an unyielding spirit. As they dove deeper, the cadets discovered stories of human valor that were both haunting and inspiring. Soldiers charged into battle while knowing they might not return. Faces twisted in pain became symbols of bravery. Thrakari felt a shift within her. Admiration grew. It was unsettling, yet invigorating. The air in the academy crackled with fresh energy. Thrakari felt it deep in her bones. Human tenacity was a force to be reckoned with, yet she could not escape her own upbringing. Could she accept that this form of bravery carried weight? The Thrakari valued efficiency, not heroism. Yet here were humans, embracing chaos and camaraderie. That evening they gathered to discuss their findings. Thrakari led the discussion, emphasizing the raw efficiency of their own tactics. But her arguments rang hollow as some cadets hesitated. They began posing questions. What about the human drive to protect one another? Is sacrificing oneself for a cause not a strong choice? Thrakari's heart raced. They were grappling with a fundamental shift in understanding. As she listened, her doubts grew. Could the Thrakari adapt? Could they learn from humans? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. In the cold efficiency of Thrakari strategy, Thrakari had always found strength. But this notion of fighting for each other, even unto death, was profoundly compelling. The room filled with a heavy silence. They were crossing a threshold, moving from arrogance into curiosity. Thrakari felt the weight of their collective journey. As they shared their thoughts, they were no longer just cadets. They were explorers on the brink of a revelation. The Thrakari way was firm, but the cadets were learning something new. Humanity had a resilience that could not be ignored. And as Thrakari looked around, she realized she was beginning to respect this odd, chaotic spirit. It resonated within her, igniting a spark of curiosity and conflict. With each discussion, they drifted further from their old beliefs. The Thrakari had always viewed themselves as superior, but the human capacity for endurance was undeniable. Thrakari's mind raced as she considered the implications. The chaos of human warfare revealed a strength that the Thrakari had yet to grasp. As the night wore on, the cadets left the lecture hall, each wrestling with their thoughts. Thrakari lingered behind, feeling the weight of the discoveries swirling in her mind. She stood alone, the empty room echoing with the stories of endurance and sacrifice. In that stillness she understood. The human spirit forged in pain was a force of nature. It was messy, chaotic, yet breathtakingly powerful. And as the lights dimmed, Thrakari felt the first tremors of change. The journey ahead promised to challenge everything she had ever known. In the dark, she whispered to herself, could this chaos hold the key to our greatest strength? The question hung in the air, heavy yet hopeful, as Thrakari stepped into the unknown. The Thrakari cadets gathered once more in the dim lecture hall. The air was thick with anticipation. Before them, a new hollow screen flickered to life, displaying scenes from the infamous D-Day invasion. Cadet Thrakari felt a knot in her stomach. This was not just another battle, it was a testament to human resolve. The chaotic images flashed, showing waves of soldiers storming a beach, their faces showing fear and determination. The sounds of gunfire echoed in the hall as the cadets watched in silence. Each soldier charged forward, despite the odds stacked against them. Thrakari remembered the previous discussions on human perseverance. Now they were about to see something deeper. As the scene unfolded, the holoscreen zoomed in on a group of soldiers huddled behind a sand dune. They strategized amidst chaos. Each soldier was ready to sacrifice themselves for their comrades and the mission. The Thrakari cadets could scarcely process this. Sacrifice for the mission. It seemed so foreign to them. Cadet Varen's voice broke the silence. Why would they risk their lives so recklessly? His brow furrowed in confusion. Thrakari considered his words. To charge into certain death was not what she classified as efficient, yet there it was, the human spirit, raw and unyielding. As the footage continued, one soldier stood out. He raised a flag, rallying his battered unit. They fight for something greater, Thrakari thought. There was an undeniable power in unity. The cadets had always been taught that individual survival was paramount. Yet here were humans, standing shoulder to shoulder, willing to die for each other. The holo screens switched to a map highlighting troop movements. Their tactics, Thrakari began, prioritize the mission over individual lives. This is inefficient, but her voice wavered. Doubts crept in. Was this really a flaw? As discussions unfolded, the atmosphere shifted. Cadets exchanged thoughts, their faces reflecting the conflict inside them. They began to hypothesize about the human concept of sacrifice. Is it bravery or stupidity? A cadet asked. Thrakari felt the urge to defend the Thrakari logic, but the images haunted her. Thousands had risen as one, fueled by a fierce loyalty to their cause. Her mind raced. The humans fought in the face of death, clinging to ideals she couldn't fully understand. Thrakari felt her own convictions falter. The Thrakari valued efficiency above all, but what if this human trait was a strength? Could it be that emotions could drive victory? The rising tension filled the room as cadets debated. Some argued that such tactics were foolish, while others defended the bond that the soldiers shared. The word sacrifice echoed around her. It was a concept that felt alien. A Thrakari would never risk their life for a cause over personal survival. Imagine, Thrakari suggested, if we were to adopt human tactics, we might see unity as a new strategy. Her heart raced at the thought. Could they blend emotion with their methods? Would they even want to? The discussion grew heated, with cadets leaning forward, their voices a mix of curiosity and defiance. Thrakari caught glimpses of faces torn between admiration and fear. This was a side of humanity that made them unpredictable. They were not simply machines of war, they were driven by something deeper. As the session drew to a close, Thrakari felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She saw her peers in a new light, wrestling with their beliefs. Just like her, they were grappling with the uncomfortable truth that every battle and sacrifice had meaning. But would their instructors embrace this new understanding? The next day, the cadets returned to the holoscreens, now eager to investigate a different battle, Stalingrad. They watched as soldiers fought in cities ravaged by war, the air thick with smoke and despair. This was another example of humans pushed to their limits. Thrakari felt the familiar knot in her stomach return, the sounds of gunfire mixed with the smell of burning debris. It was a scenario the Thrakari would have avoided, yet humans thrived in chaos. They dug in, refusing to surrender, striking fear into their enemies. The cadets leaned in, captivated, as they witnessed the tenacity of the human spirit. This battle is a testament to their resolve, Thrakari murmured to herself, her mind racing. Why do they fight so fiercely even when surrounded? The answer lay in their unity and resolve. Humans adapted to their circumstances, and it was terrifying, yet awe-inspiring. As they analyzed the tactics, Thrakari couldn't help but feel a shift in the air. Her fellow cadets began to recognize that embracing chaos was an art form. The humans turned despair into a weapon. They fought back with grit, refusing to be outmatched. In the following discussion, Thrakari recalled their previous findings. Humans do not shun death, they embrace it for their cause. It makes them dangerous. The others nodded, some whispering amongst themselves, their expressions betraying a newfound respect. Thrakari felt a surge of pride for her classmates. They had shifted from arrogance to curiosity. They had begun to understand human warfare differently. No longer were they dismissing it as disorganized chaos. They were starting to see the brilliance hidden within it. As the lectures continued, Thrakari found herself at the center of discussions. She had become a bridge, leading her peers through this complex landscape. The Thrakari had always held the belief that efficiency measured success. The revelation that sacrifice could also yield victory began to reshape their very understanding of war. Days turned into weeks, and the cadets carefully examined military principles. Thrakari felt a bond growing among her peers. They were united not only by their studies, but also by the shared experience of grappling with their beliefs. The cadets of the Thrakari Military Academy stood on the precipice of change. They were beginning to understand that perhaps strength did not only lie in ruthless efficiency, but also in the willingness to fight for one another. In this transformation, Thrakari felt a flicker of hope. She saw her classmates reassessing their views on humanity. If a single emotion could drive men and women through hell, what more could they learn? The cadets felt the stirrings of a new understanding. They started to realize that humanity, with all its flaws, had something valuable to teach. The Thrakari cadets gathered once more in the dimly lit lecture hall. The air buzzed with tension and anticipation. A new hollow screen flickered to life, illuminating their faces with bright images that danced in vibrant colors. Thrakari stood at the front, her heart racing. The cadets were eager to dive into the next phase of their study on human warfare. Today, they would explore urban combat. The room filled with the sounds of electric whirring and the soft hum of the Academy's energy core. Thrakari could smell the faint metallic scent of worn equipment. She felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as she prepared to challenge everything they had learned about the human spirit. As the images flashed, they showed the city of Stalingrad, the scene of fierce fighting during World War II. The flickering lights displayed rubble-strewn streets, shattered buildings, and desperate humans fighting against overwhelming odds. Thrakari watched as human soldiers maneuvered through the debris, their bodies pressed against crumbling walls, guns raised high. The cadets had already noted how humans fought with tenacity, but now they would learn that humans became even more dangerous when cornered. The hollow screen showed a group of outnumbered soldiers making a last stand. They used every resource available to them. No corner was left unguarded. Every crumbling structure became a fortress. The cadets exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from arrogance to curiosity. The reality of human determination began to sink in. Thrakari switched the display to a simulation. This time, it showed a hypothetical battle between Thrakari forces and a smaller, desperate human unit. The simulation began. The Thrakari soldiers advanced, confident in their efficiency. But to their surprise, the human soldiers fought back with wild creativity. They set traps, used the environment to their advantage, and executed unexpected tactics. The Thrakari forces found themselves caught in ambushes, losing men at an alarming rate. Gasps filled the room. Thrakari's cadets watched in disbelief as the simulation unfolded. The screen showed the human unit outmaneuvering the Thrakari soldiers, taking them down one by one. Thrakari watched her peers' faces. Their expressions morphed from skepticism to shock. "This can't be," one cadet muttered, disbelief ringing in his voice. The sound echoed in the still air. Thrakari felt a chill creep up her spine. She understood the implications of what they were witnessing. The Thrakari had always viewed humans as weak, but this lesson shattered that belief. The simulation ended abruptly. Silence enveloped the room. Thrakari stood before her classmates, the weight of their collective realization heavy in the air. "Humans adapt," she said, her voice steady. "They thrive in chaos." The cadets looked up, their minds racing. The hollow screen flickered, showing scenes from other urban battles. The humans used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and psychological warfare. They fought fiercely, drawing strength from desperation. Thrakari's heart sank and soared in turn. She had always admired the Thrakari way, efficient, powerful. But now, she felt a strange admiration for the chaos of human combat. As the images flashed on the screen, she noticed the emotional intensity in each scene. The sounds of gunfire and explosions reverberated in her mind. She could almost feel the heat of the smoke rising around the soldiers. Each image painted a vivid picture of courage, fear, and resilience. Thrakari's thoughts shifted to their earlier studies. They fight for each other, she realized. In the face of defeat, they do not yield. This was different from the Thrakari doctrine, where individual survival was paramount. Humans fought for a cause, for their comrades, for victory against all odds. A debate sparked among the cadets. Some felt that this unpredictability made humans foolish. Others argued it made them formidable. Thrakari listened carefully. She could sense their growing respect for humanity. They were grappling with a new understanding of what it meant to be both strong and vulnerable. The discussion deepened. Cadets shared insights gathered from their studies, linking concepts of human warfare to their own beliefs. Thrakari leaned forward, eager to hear every perspective. She began to connect the dots between human adaptability and their earlier observations of perseverance. Hours passed, yet no one moved to leave. The cadets were immersed in the revelations of the day. Thrakari's heart raced, a strange thrill coursing through her. She felt herself bridging the gap between their utilitarian views and the complex nature of humanity. The lessons of the day transformed her. Suddenly, the room echoed with the whir of the hollow screen shutting down. The lights dimmed, casting shadows across the cadets' faces. Thrakari looked around the room, absorbing the energy. She realized that the Thrakari had underestimated humans. Their assumption of human cowardice was fundamentally flawed. The cadets began to share their thoughts, discussing what they had learned. They spoke of the unexpected strength that emerged from desperation. The harsh reality was that humans often fought harder when they were backed against a wall. Thrakari recognized the truth in their words. The room buzzed with energy. Once driven by arrogance, the cadets now felt a blend of admiration and fear. They were beginning to see humanity in a new light. Thrakari stood tall, her heart pounding. She had launched them on a path to understanding, a journey that might change their future. As discussions continued, Thrakari sensed a shift in the air. They were no longer just cadets studying a primitive species. They were witnesses to the depth of human spirit. The lesson had struck deeper than anyone anticipated. What began as an academic study became a profound exploration of resilience, bravery, and the unpredictable nature of warfare. The cadets left the hall that day changed. Thrakari felt a sense of unity among them. They had forged a connection with the humanity they once scorned. Their views had expanded, shaped by their findings. They knew that the lessons of human warfare would resonate far beyond the walls of the academy. As they walked through the corridors of the military academy, Thrakari reflected on their journey. Every step they took echoed with newfound respect. The Thrakari had entered this study with certainty of their superiority. But as they learned about adaptability, resilience, and sacrifice, their understanding of strength shifted. It was just the beginning of what might become a deeper relationship with humanity. In the heart of the Thrakari Military Academy, a new chapter was unfolding, one that would blend the fierce efficiency of Thrakari warfare with the emotional depth of human combat. Thrakari felt hope bloom within her. They were on a path to something greater, a partnership rooted in respect and understanding. The journey ahead would be unlike anything they had imagined. The atmosphere in the Thrakari lecture hall was thick with tension. The hollow screens cast a cold glow, illuminating the faces of cadets filled with uncertainty. Thrakari stood at the front, her heart racing. This was not just another analysis. It was the culmination of weeks of study. The cadets had witnessed the endless cycles of chaos, bravery, and sacrifice displayed in human warfare. They had seen soldiers fighting through pain, their determination almost palpable. Thrakari felt the weight of her peers' gazes. She gathered her thoughts and began. Humans view death differently, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. To them, it is a cost they accept. It's not a weakness, it's a source of strength. The room fell silent. Thrakari recalled the stories they analyzed. Soldiers who charged forward, even when victory seemed impossible. The human spirit, she realized, was not just about survival. It was about a profound commitment to something greater than themselves. The cadets exchanged glances, reflecting the mixture of disbelief and awe. They had entered this study viewing humans as inefficient, yet now they witnessed a fierce fire within them. Images flickered on the screen, capturing human faces twisted with rage and determination. Thrakari pointed to a scene of a soldier pulling his comrade from the chaos of battle, ignoring his own injuries. "Look at this," she urged, her eyes shining with conviction. "This soldier risks everything for his friend. This is love forged in war, something we do not understand." The cadets shifted uncomfortably. They had been taught to see emotion as a weakness. Efficiency was the goal. Yet here was proof that passion could fuel actions. Thrakari pressed on. When cornered, humans become dangerous. In Stalingrad, they fought back with sheer will. They adapted, took risks, and surprised their enemies. This is something we must learn from. The murmurs grew among the cadets. They had viewed themselves as the pinnacle of military efficiency, but Thrakari's words sparked a change. The revelation was unsettling. Humans were more than mere fodder in conflict. They were fierce, unpredictable, and united by a bond of sacrifice. Thrakari felt her own beliefs shifting. She remembered her earlier arrogance. The human struggle was not chaos, it was a dance of tenacity. The Thrakari doctrine had never considered death as a tool for victory, but here, in this dark room filled with flickering light, she understood that perhaps this was a lesson worth learning. As she spoke, the depth of human emotion began to resonate with her peers. They shared their own stories, reflecting on the bravery they had encountered in their studies. Some spoke of the courage exhibited by soldiers on D-Day. Others recalled the stories of medics who rushed into danger to save lives, risking their own for a greater cause. These were not just stories, they were echoes of humanity's heart. The cadets began to see the threads connecting their own values to those they had judged harshly. Thrakari's voice softened as she continued. Humans do not just fight for survival, but for each other. That kind of unity is powerful. The air in the room shifted. They were no longer just cadets studying human warfare. They were students of humanity itself. They started to recognize that their own upbringing had blinded them. The Thrakari doctrine had taught them to view emotion as irrelevant. But the lessons from human warfare revealed something profound. Emotional depth could turn the tide of battle. Thrakari felt a surge of hope. What if the Thrakari military could change? What if they could adopt these lessons of sacrifice and unity without losing efficiency? The thought was exhilarating. The cadets began to discuss their findings more freely. The fear and doubt gradually transformed into a burgeoning desire for innovation. The sound of the hollow screen flickering in the background faded as Thrakari continued to guide them. She envisioned a future where Thrakari strategies incorporated these human elements. We could be more adaptable, she proposed, her voice strong. We could use our efficiency while embracing the emotional strength of our enemies. This could redefine our understanding of victory. As the meeting drew to a close, the cadets felt a sense of unity in their transformation. They had started as skeptics, armed with arrogance. Now they left with a deeper understanding of humanity's complexity. Thrakari felt proud, not only of her peers, but of the courage they had all displayed in confronting their biases. The cadets exited the lecture hall, the cold, smooth walls vibrating with their energy. The future felt bright, filled with potential. They were no longer just Thrakari, they were students of a world beyond their own. With every step they took, they felt the weight of human sacrifice guiding them. Thrakari's heart swelled with hope. Together they would forge a new path, a path where strength was defined not by efficiency alone, but by the power to love, to sacrifice, and to fight for something greater than themselves. The complex tapestry of humanity was now intertwined with their own. The atmosphere in the Thrakari Military Academy buzzed with anticipation. The cadets gathered, their eyes bright with newfound understanding. Thrakari stood at the front, her mind racing with the weight of their discoveries. The journey through human warfare had transformed them. They had seen courage, sacrifice, and unity woven into the fabric of human conflicts. In the lecture hall, the walls pulsed with the familiar energy of the Academy's core. The air was thick with the scent of metal and the lingering echoes of past discussions. Thrakari breathed in deeply, feeling the stirrings of change. The Thrakari military doctrine, once rigid and unforgiving, was under scrutiny. No longer could they ignore what had been revealed. Through their analyses, the cadets learned that humans fought not just for survival, but for something deeper. They had witnessed the selflessness of soldiers who charged forward, knowing they might not return. The sacrifice they had seen in the D-Day invasion lingered in their minds. This was not weakness, this was raw strength. Thrakari felt a fire ignite within her. Now she stood before senior commanders, compelled to share their insights. "We must adapt," she urged, her voice steady but filled with passion. "The humans embrace chaos, yet find power within it. Their sacrifices teach us a new way. We can blend our efficiency with their emotional intelligence." A murmur rippled through the audience. The cadets behind her nodded, their expressions shifting from doubt to determination. With this new vision, the Thrakari initiated a bold program. Cadets would train alongside humans to understand their tactics and strategies. They would learn the beauty of fighting not just for glory, but for each other. The air in the hall became charged with hope, a feeling that had once seemed alien. As Thrakari envisioned the future, she felt a sense of unity blooming. Humanity and the Thrakari could forge a new alliance.